So Vinod and Sheetal will be talking through everything that SNEHA's done, what things were like before, where they've reached now, what the way is ahead, and also I think from an organizational lens, what it means to adopt a kind of data pipelining, data management tool like Dalgo. So with that, I'll hand over to Sheetal and Vinod to get started. Yeah, over to y'all.
Thanks, Abhishek. So we'll get started. Just also as a preface to the whole webinar, we'll primarily be looking at this mostly from a non-engineering perspective. We're going to be looking at this more from understanding about SNEHA, the challenges we sought to solve, where Dalgo kind of fit in, but grounded in, as Abhishek mentioned, more on looking at problems, challenges, how we went about doing it, what are the processes we follow today, what did it take for us to get there, how are we dealing with change management, what are we looking forward to the future. Those are all kind of the things that we want to talk about, and that's what you will see kind of through the webinar. I'll add in a few bits of engineering, but for the most part, Sheetal is going to be walking us through what we have been doing at SNEHA and what we are doing now with Dalgo. So Sheetal, with that, why don't we start off with like a brief introduction of SNEHA, its work in helping address preventive and promotive healthcare among vulnerable women and children.
Hi, everyone. So SNEHA is that is Society for Nutrition Education and Health Action is a Mumbai-based non-profit organization working to improve the health-seeking behavior, the awareness and access to health services, and thereby improving the health of the people in urban informal settlements that we work in. We aim to bridge the health inequity by raising health for all. And in doing that, we adopt what is called a continuum of care approach. So focusing on preconception care, antenatal, postnatal, healthy childhood through adolescence to break the intergenerational cycle of poor health. So also addressing gender disparities and gender-based violence is key to all our programs because we believe that it is at the heart of health inequity in the communities. So our pillar programs work across 4 major areas of the larger public health ecosystem, and they are public system partnerships, maternal and child health, prevention of violence against women and children, and empowerment, health, and sexuality of adolescents. So this is an overall brief of what we do at SNEHA.
Sheetal, can you take us through a little bit of SNEHA's data challenges and looking at it from user perspectives? And I'll add on with some of the data engineering challenges, but looking at it from user perspectives across our entire program teams and M&E teams.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we have multiple programs running across SNEHA, each with its own data and monitoring frameworks. And here I would say thanks to our senior management and our board who have got a strong data culture and having data and tech interwoven into our program DNA right from the inception. So as you can see on this slide, we did have a data pipeline up and running, though there was scope for improvement and increased efficiency. So I would briefly take you through our data pipeline, and maybe Vinod, you can chip in if needed. So data from our Comcare cloud-based server, which is our data collection software, was pulled into MySQL, which stored the raw data using Python PostShell scripts, which were run on Windows Task Scheduler. So after raw data was stored in MySQL, Talent, and again, MySQL queries, custom queries were written for data cleaning and transformation. And this was pushed as tables into Tableau, which was a data visualization software.
So I'll add in, Sheetal.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just to give also a little bit of perspective, we've had a lot of data systems at SNEHA over the last 8-10 years, and it's been a constant process of improvement. Comcare has been present for more than 8+ years. This system has existed for quite a while, and we have had different ways of working with the data. This version has also been replaced a little bit later, where we removed talent and the MySQL staging system, where we ended up with one single MySQL system. They were all done for particular reasons, but some of the big challenges, at least on the data engineering side, I'll just walk through, and then Sheetal can talk about the user challenges. We had Python scripts which used to break down at times, and that could be related to particular sets of user data that was being added. There was also the synchronization part, transformation of data as it went through different transformations so that you could actually visualize it on Tableau, was again, sometimes could be a challenge. There was also issues of Tableau accessing the MySQL system in a efficient manner. Sometimes you would require 15-20 seconds for a particular chart to load because of data challenges. Sheetal, go ahead and you can work through the user challenges.
Yeah. So I would summarize these challenges which made us, think of adopting Dalgo. So as Vinod mentioned, as shown in the previous infographic also, we had multiple sources for data synchronization and cleaning. And this was often resource intensive. And as mentioned, sometimes the scripts would break, which would require manual manual intervention for them to run error-free, which was time-consuming. So that was one challenge with the data engineering part, as Vinod has mentioned. Coming to the M&E and program data perspective, so access to live data was available to only a subset of in the organization. In our case, it was the M&E teams, and program teams had access to data at predetermined time frames. So we used to share monthly Tableau dashboards with them. Also, easy access to data was limited again because Tableau dashboards were sent, which requires a reader application and a laptop. So easy access was not available for everyone. So frontline field workers are on the field staff did not have independent access to their own data. And there was also the challenge of manual collation to be done by M&E. So in Tableau also we had to refresh the data, add filters. And I'll give you a use case, like we work with children, right? So if we have to follow them for a period for looking at their anthropometry or home visits, so these children get migrated out or added in. Otherwise, it's the same set of children whom we are following. So these can't be added up month on month or quarter on quarter. And to get ad hoc metrics, there was manual calculations that needed to be done by the M&E team. So to address some of these bottlenecks, we decided to adopt Dalgo's interface so that with the objective of enabling the M&E and program teams to monitor program delivery and increase efficiency by integrating data ingestion and transformation across Dalgo's unified platform. Providing access to live data. So I'm going to walk you through this during the live demo of our dashboard. So how we have set up is if you sync data today, if you have entered data and synced it, so tomorrow dashboards are refreshed. So we are providing T+1 data on various metrics. Also, with this, we are able to provide democratic access up to all cadres. So this doesn't require any particular license versions. And since this is a web-based superset, dashboards are web-based, with just a click, all teams are able to independently view their own data on their own tabs and laptops. Also, because this is automated, and we'll take you through that, how data is already pre-calculated. So turnaround times and donor reporting becomes much easier without manual collation by the M&E. So this is how our data pipeline looks now. I would request Vinod to speak more about it here, but as you can see, data ingestion, data transformation, storage, and visualization are now unified within Dalgo's platform. Vinod, you can add more here. how we started in our journey.
Thanks, Sheetal. Yeah, I'll take a little bit time, a little bit more of going down a little bit history lane in terms of a year plus. I started with SNEHA around June of last year. And some of the challenges that I was seeing with SNEHA had also been some of the challenges that had been looked at by Lobo, who's the founder of Tech for Dev, also by some of our some of our funders in the agency fund. And at that time, we had some idea of like creating a platform that could help with these challenges. It was exciting to have that through SNEHA's management, and SNEHA's management was eager to take that up. And so it was more of a co-design with SNEHA and STIR, which were our first pilots. And then we piloted with 4 other organizations. So from that perspective, we kind of officially started around November of last year. We threw up the first superset dashboards to see if those would be viable replacements for Tableau. And then in February of this year, we essentially had discrete components of Dalgo, which would be the Airbyte, which is the ingestion engine, dbt, which is the transformation engine, and Postgres, which is the storage engine. So we basically put those together and had that released for a particular component, which is looking at pregnant women and looking at tracking them during their pregnancy. So that was the first one we kind of put together in February of this year, worked that through essentially everybody involved with that program, starting from field level workers to management, and getting a good grip on what was working, what was not working. And that kind of formed the basis for us in terms of also driving the Dalgo platform, which was officially released later in July of this year. And SNEHA, of course, has been one of the first people to come on board on the platform, fully established. And Sheetal will walk through some of the dashboards which you will see. And today we are quite a bit ways off in terms of how we have established Dalgo as a system, but more beyond just Dalgo, the processes that will help it to be successful. And also what we are kind of setting up for the future in terms of capacity building, and what's exciting for us also in terms of driving data insights. Sheetal, you can take that.
So as Vinod overall explained how the process of switching to Dalgo took place, I'll talk more about the processes involved from the M&E and IM perspective, basically. So while switching our data from Tableau to Superset or moving to the Dalgo platform, these were some of the steps that were involved. So first, we did a document review. So some of our metrics, we are used to calculate it month over month, year over year, but to prepare a list to see through an external, because this was done in collaboration with the data engineering team. So to rationalize our indicators, to put together a source and logic for calculation. I'm going to show you an example here as well. And there was also, I would like to add that here we also collaborated with Goalkeep for one of our components. Vinod was there. We also hired a data engineer at SNEHA. So they always had this question whether is this metric actionable, is it relevant? So that rationalizing exercise and preparing a metric list was done primarily by the M&E team. Here I'll just give you an example. I hope my screen is visible. So we prepared sort of, this is for our MWRA, which is married women and reproductive age for the dashboards. So for CEO metrics, for program metrics, we prepared indicators like this, logic behind it. And one of our partners, which is Goalkeep, also shared a key questionnaire template with us based on the list that we have shared with them. So what was expanding on the metrics, whether why is it important, who is it asking, the indicator type, the calculation. So this helped translate the knowledge between the key stakeholders working on building this platform. So the next step was building the data pipeline, the schemas on DBT to be able to accurately calculate the metrics on DBT. So this was primarily done by the data engineering team. The next step was the dashboard building, whether all the metrics were visualized correctly with filters and other features. So this was again led primarily by the data engineering team. Next to this was a major component, which was data validation, because we wanted, this is a new change that is going out with the programs and we want to build trust. So there was multiple rounds of data validation, which happened in tandem with the M&E team and the data engineering team to ensure that the numbers on dashboards are reflecting correctly. So for this, we had a Tableau backup with which we could match our data. And lastly, we went on to launching the superset dashboards and training with the program teams. And for this, while I'll do a demo, we did a role-based access because not everyone would require to see all the data. So field teams would require more of list what is pending to help them track their daily work better. Whereas the program and senior management would need an overall program metric. So role-based access was set up for them, and we have try to capture feedback from them on this. So I'll take you through where we are right now with launching Superset. As Vinod mentioned, we have launched it in 2 MCH programs in September. Since this is a new shift to what people were used to viewing tablets, change management is pretty important, and we focused on training. So during the training, we focused on finding the right info, that is navigating through the dashboards, which tabs are there, what filters are there, building alignment on the metrics, and understanding the data sources, like what you're entering leads to this metric, which is important for them to build ownership, the teams to build ownership of their own data. After this, we are currently in the process. Data review is ongoing, so that dashboard accuracy is always above 95%. And Vinod has helped us raise issues on GitHub. So the data engineering team and us, whatever bugs we see or any issues, we raise that on GitHub to problem solve. And we are taking in feedback from our teams. So any additional requests that are coming in, also if there are any corrections to be made. So that is also ongoing. I'll now take you through a demonstration of our dashboards. These are snapshots of some of the dashboards that we have. So sorry, someone's speaking. So these are ANC is for pregnant women. So that is one of the components that we work in our MCH programs, maternal and child health. So as I was mentioning about role-based access, we can walk you through the CO dashboards, how they are visualized, the program dashboards, and the M&E dashboards, which are 3 different ones. So as you see on the program CO dashboard, we can filter for the cluster. We have different COs that can be filtered. And all the key metrics that are there are shown them in the summary, monthly summary tab. So this is a live dashboard. So as you can see, if tomorrow this particular CO adds in more visits and the data has been synced, so this number would reflect on this dashboard. So the first tab shows all the key summary metrics that we have for the ANC component. And we've made it more actionable. So the pregnant woman list, which I'll not share for privacy reasons, has a line list of all the pregnant women currently with this particular field worker. So we have their HB information, whether they have registered for ANC checkups. Also the month visit status, all that is there, which is very actionable for the team. We also have things like pending referrals. So again, here there's a line list that is provided, and they can very easily see and track and plan their work accordingly. Likewise, delivery outcomes. So these are some of the major components in our ANC component, which has gone into the CO dashboard. Now the same dashboard is for the program team. So this is for more for the at a senior level overall view. So here the metrics are provided, and here we felt that day by day live data doesn't make so much sense if we look at it from an overall perspective. So these are meant to be in such a way that the last a month data is visualized. Also, trends can be visualized using these heat graphs, which are set up for the past 6 months. So again, overall, whatever our indicators are for the ANC component, and this tab has the numbers, the raw counts for all those metrics, and this can be visualized month over the last 6 months. Coming to the ANC M&E metrics, this is something that we have prepared for our donor reporting and the kind of monitoring formats that we share. So this has really got turnaround times for us for manual collation has come down, because just with the filter, I can quickly collate. So you can see that July to September quarter data has been calculated for this particular component, the counts and the proportions. So this is how, so like this for multiple components like MWRA, children, intervention coverage. So we have rolled out these dashboards. Also, coming to what we have in plan for the future is continuing applying the data best practices, data engineering best practices to build metrics for visualization. Also to incorporate feedback along with requests for new analysis to see whether they make sense, do they really need that, and to build trust on this data that we have on Superset. Also, we were in the process of building a user engagement dashboards to monitor key users, to see which dashboard is having more uptake, which is not having, can we make them more actionable. So things like that are in process. Additionally, we would like to upgrade our capacity, because as I shared, mostly this work has been done with one resource, be it Vinod for a component goal key, or within SNEHA also our one data engineer. So we also have plans to build capacity in the M&E team to work with tools such as Dalgo and Superset. And our future plans is to, currently we have rolled this out into 2 programs across SNEHA. We want to streamline Dalgo across all programs at SNEHA and to derive more insights from our operational data. Like we want to look at, because earlier we used to calculate on Tableau on data, and I mentioned that gender-based violence is at the key across our program. So we want to do things like uh, trying to analyze whether women facing gender-based violence have health outcomes like malnutrition or poor pregnancy results. So things like that, more insights from our operational data is something that we would like to view.
Thanks, Sheetal. Thanks really for the presentation. Just have one thing on my end, and I know that we have worked together a lot. And since you have worked with the SNEHA Center program, which has been the first one that we have pushed across SNEHA, been a lot of work on your end, probably double the work over the last 6 months in terms of what's been involved. Lots of data checking and probably long nights and kind of trying to figure some things out. So would be nice to hear from you on like how personally it has been. And I know there's been lots of frustrations too, just to understand like how introduction of Dalgo has been, how have you seen it, and what you all think of it, more from your perspective and other colleagues at the M&E in SNEHA.
I would say for myself and for most of the team at SNEHA, both M&E and IM, that this has been a learning experience, a steep learning experience at some points. Learning curve, that is, because as I mentioned, we are so used to looking at metrics, but to share it with an external person and to have that understanding of, we know what we want, right? But to transfer that knowledge into what we want to visualize required rationalizing. We also looked at our own indicators more in depth. And overall, the data engineering bit of it was new for us. Dalgo, DBT, uh, the superset. So there was a lot of learning involved in that, and collaborating with stakeholders like Goalkeep, who are very good trainers. So we could transfer some of that learning into the trainings that we did with our program teams. So that was a very positive experience. And personally, for the M&E team also, as I mentioned, there has been a reduction in turnaround times in donor reporting. So from the time we've launched in September, the past 2 months, we have gotten the data from a superset. So that way, it has been useful for us as well. And overall, I would say that I am thankful for the internal teams at SNEHA for their adaptability and readiness to change. Also, the program teams, because they were used to seeing something, and to have that change and be open to it has been, I think, instrumental in bringing this pipeline green. Okay, having live data access, having automated data into SNEHA to fruition.
Thanks, Sheetal. We'll pass that back to you, Abhishek. We come to the end of our presentation at least, and we can have an open session on questions and answers. Thank you. Thanks, Sheetal.
Thank you. I can stop screen sharing.
Yes.
Oh.
Great. Thanks, Sheetal. Thanks, Vinod. This has been helpful and insightful, I think, at least for me, to get a bit more of a sense of what the journey looked like for y'all. I just want to ground this webinar kind of in the idea for everyone that I mean, the aim of this webinar is to help essentially all of you from NGOs to hear from an NGO that's adopted Dalgo, right? If you're thinking of kind of how do you revamp and improve, if you're at that stage where you're thinking about revamping, improving your data management processes, right? Then the aim of the webinar is to give you that kind of first-hand account. And if you have any top of mind questions, right, to just go ahead and shoot them out to Sheetal. And I think there are a number of other folks from the SNEHA team as well on the call, right? So you can hear from people from different parts of the team as well. And with that, we can kind of open the floor for questions. I saw one question in the chat box around what is Goalkeep. So maybe Vinod can, go ahead and talk about Goalkeep, and Sheetal can then talk about what that experience was like for them, for SNEHA with Goalkeep. Yeah.
So Goalkeep is one of our partners on the data side. One of our partners is in Tech for Dev that have closely worked with us and with our associated NGOs to help with a lot of different things related to data. They worked on doing assessments of programs. They worked on setting up program metrics and outcomes and inputs and outputs for M&E programs. They've helped with data engineering tools, which was the case with SNEHA and in implementations of Dalgo. So quite varied on the data side, one of our close partners on the data side. And Sheetal, you can pipe in with what your work with Goalkeep folks on one of the components.
Yeah, so we, as MCH components, have different components within the program, like antenatal care, which is work with pregnant women, with children. And one of our work is also contraceptive counseling or referrals on planned conception with married women in the reproductive age group. So to build metrics for that particular component, we had collaborated with Goalkeep. So two of them, they had worked with us on developing the metrics, the data pipeline, and the dashboards for the NWRA component. So the key questions template that I showed was something which Goalkeep did with us, asking, what is this indicator for? Who will look at it? What kind of an indicator is it? It was a learning experience to work with it.
We'll also add just a little bit Why why did we do different things? We basically, some of us internally have worked on SNEHA's data engineering, which is myself and Siddhant. We've had Goalkeep, who's an external data partner work. We've also had Abhishek and Nadeem in the IIM on the data engineering side, internally work at SNEHA too. And this has been kind of over time and for different reasons. Part of it was for us to build capacity. SNEHA's M&E component is quite huge. So there were also certain timelines we were trying to hit. So it was for certain particular reasons. We also opted to use Goalkeep to augment our capacity. The other thing was also we were trying to find models of what would work and not work. So it's been a progressive journey. As far as I have been mostly involved a bit on the data engineering side all the way through. Tech for Dev, other than me, has been mostly involved till around March of this year. After that, we've had Goalkeep come on in like late April. And then on the data engineering side, we had Abhishek come on with us in May of this year. So at this point of time, most of our data engineering work, or pretty much all of it, is sustained internally at SNEHA. And that at least is also the plan going forward, with the notion that when we need more capacity, we will also again augment. And we have had a good experience with Goalkeep, but we know that we can go back and depend on them if needed, and if that's something that we need at that point of time.
Great. Anyone else? Any other questions? Feel free to go ahead and just unmute and ask them. Or if you'd like, you can even use the chat box.
Yeah, Abhishek. Naveen this side from Piramal Foundation.
Hi, Naveen.
So yeah, I got the idea how Delgo, not how Delgo work, but the complete set how Delgo can help us. So that I understand. But I have some questions like data collection we are doing is the first step, right? So day by day, the requirements are changing for data collection. Let's say today we collected 5 indicators, and then after 15 days, let's see, we collect another 5 indicators. So how we will be collecting this data means do we have some custom form builder like Google Sheet or Microsoft Forms? How from first step to the last step, how the Dalgo platform help is going to help us? So can you highlight the major pointers, so how these are working? Because let's say today if I have 5 indicators requirement, then I'm coming to you, build these forms, and we will be collecting some data. Then next day we understood like yeah, 2 more indicators we left yesterday, so we want to. So this will be back and forth between you and me, right? So will it give the access to us? We can build custom forms to collect the data, and it will be like processing in the Postgres, and then data refining will be happening, and directly it will be coming to the dashboard. I can't like visualize that, because indicators are differently, right? Sometimes we have to collect multiple indicators to get information from it. So how it is working, can we have that highlight?
Yeah. So maybe I can take that. First thing to mention, Naveen, is to kind of make or establish the difference between a data collection tool and Dalgo, right? So Dalgo is not a data collection tool. Dalgo helps link all of the data from your data collection tool and run it through transformations in an automatic fashion till it reaches your visualization tool, right? So if you're using, for example, in SNEHA's case, they're using Comcare, that is their data collection tool, right? And Comcare is not part of Dalgo, but Dalgo can connect to data from Comcare, then process it as SNEHA requires, and then push it to Superset. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the first thing to mention, Naveen. To your second point of indicators are constantly changing, right?
Right.
And how will we navigate that? So now let's assume you have a data collection tool that's Comcare. Today you're collecting 5 data points, and tomorrow you're collecting 6, right?
Right.
So then what you would need to be able to do is either build internal capacity to accommodate those changes, right? In your data transformations. Um, or in the more ideal situation, it is that you are clear that these are your indicators, and indicators that you require are static for at least 6 months to a year, right? Which is to say,
Mm-hmm.
for a year, you know, hey, these are my program indicators, or for a quarter or half a year, you know that these are your key program indicators, and they're revised on a quarterly, semi-annual or annual basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the preference actually. Ideally, you should be at that stage if you are thinking of adopting a tool like Dalgo. Else, you need to have I mean, internal capacity in SQL and data engineering, and then you all can always accommodate those changes as and when you make them. But it's, I mean, as a best practice, and for organizations that are considering using data pipelining tools like Dalgo, you should have some consistency and some maturity in terms of data collection and needs. Yeah. Is that
Got it.
helpful, Naveen?
Means we'll be having some data collection tool, and definitely we'll be having some like superset in space of Tableau or some other visualization platform we can have. But in middle, it will be working as Dalgo,
In the
which will
middle,
be
it's Dalgo.
processing the, yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
It'll
Okay.
pull
Okay.
it,
Got it.
like Sheetal was saying, it'll pull it on a regular basis, pull all the data from your collection tool on a regular basis, process it however you want, and then push it to your visualization whenever you want.
So it's a software as a service and will be running on our instances, our servers, or will be on your servers.
Correct. It's a software as a service. So you're essentially we're giving you an instance across all of the open source tools Vinod just mentioned, but the warehouse is your own. So you will be hosting your own warehouse, whether it's Postgres or BigQuery or Snowflake or whatever else. So the data that's stored is always stored on your system. The data moves through our system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Abhishek.
Sure, Naveen. And happy to chat about that any other time if you'd like more information, Naveen. Can take you through the platform as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Hi, Abhishek. I have a quick question. A question? Yeah, Abhishek, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Hi, Kabir.
Hi. Sneha,
Could you
firstly,
just introduce yourself and your organization?
yeah. So, yeah, my name is Kabir, and I have been working as a data consultant with Simple Education Foundation. So now, okay, Sheetal, thank you so much for sharing about your work, and also congratulations on being able to successfully make the transition. I can just imagine how painful a journey it would have been to shift people. So congratulations on making that. A small request I have, Sheetal, so that I can ask my question. You shared the pre-Dalgo picture. Could you please pull up that slide again? I have a question with reference to that.
Yeah,
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, here is my question, Sheetal. I remember you sharing, and please correct me if I have missed certain parts of it. I remember you sharing that pre-Delgos, let's say a lot of manual work would go in fixing the script. So I'm imagining a case like this. So let's say Comcare collection structure changed, and then like the script broke down, and then you would go and make certain changes in the script, right? And then you also made the conjecture that once you have had the Delgo, these sort of changes were minimized, right? Or like less time was taken in these changes. Now, when I'm looking at the tech architecture, let's say you have used for ingestion Python scripts over here, and for storage, let's say MySQL, and I see that in Delgo you have used Postgres for storage, like Postgres is your data warehouse, and like for transformation there is Talent. I'm just curious that what component, what aspects of Dalgo really made that change? Because what I'm seeing is essentially the data collection tool remains the same, right? There is processing and ingestion still happening. What aspect of the Dalgo ecosystem made used the time for you for making those manual changes to keep the system up and running always? Yeah, is my question? Am I clear with my
Yeah.
question, Peter?
Yeah. I would briefly talk about this and maybe request Vinod to add more. So what I've understood is on that. So previously what happened was some of our scripts would break and then they without notifications. So we would look at the data and raise it then with our teams to then manually correct it. But with Dalgo, there is also this uh, every day the check that is running, and if there is a breakdown there is a notification that the the sync has failed. So that way that has helped minimize this error prone things or time that used to be taken. But Vinod, you can add please.
Okay, so I'll add a few things, Kabir, and maybe that will help in terms of understanding, right? So the Python scripts that we were working with before were primarily provided by Comcare. And the way those scripts function, and this was scripts written by Comcare for ingestion into MySQL or Postgres. The scripts, the way they function was basically to push a columnar table into MySQL based on data in Comcare. This worked kind of okay for the most times. Where did it fail? If you had too many columns, you would have problems. If, for example, somebody on data collection, and again, this is also an issue in terms of, you could probably ask, why would somebody put an emoji on my data, right? But that happens. And if you have not set up validations for everything and stuff, that can happen. So let's say the emoji comes in, and if your MySQL database doesn't like that, your pipeline stalls. And depending on how pipelines are set up and run, it's a question of whether that's going to ignore that error and run through, or it's going to just bomb out. In Comcare scripts, for example, what would happen is if you had that, it would just not function. And at that point of time, the way it was set up was also there was no notifications. You don't know which one failed. You don't know which actual sync failed. The only way you could do that was go run every script manually and then figure out this script now failed. Now, what do I do with that information? Now I've got to go find out why did it fail. And then at that point of time, you are now kind of hunting it down. And there have been cases where we've not been able to hunt down, and we say, let's just forget about this day of data. Because we were thinking every night, we would say, let's scrap that day of data and switch across to the next day. The difference in terms of how, for example, the Comcare connector is set up. So today we use Airbyte. Airbyte is an open source ingestion platform, which we use inside our system. So it's not something that we are developing, right? So, but what we did was to develop a connector for Comcare. And just to give you an example, what we did there was we pull it as a JSON. So every data comes in, it's not being funneled into, it's just basically being pulled in as one big, if you're well aware of JSON format, it's just pulled in as one blob. So your issues with actually having transformation layers failing can be really easily figured out to where the problem came. And we have notification in Dalgo, which can tell you when pipelines ran, which models had problems, which are the tables that have problems, and you can basically tell from there where your problems are. So it allows you quite a bit of significant troubleshooting. So that's one aspect of it. The secondary aspect of it, where we talked about custom SQL scripts, that's for saying, I'm going to take that data, I'm going to crunch it in multiple different ways, join data, clean it, join across multiple tables. I'm going to do time graining and create metrics across multiple different time ranges, all of those kind of things. Theoretically, if you were to ask me, are we doing anything different from what could be done before? No. What we are doing though with DBT is a good tool that allows you, again, DBT is an open source tool that you can use, but it's again integrated into Dalgo for you to be able to better manage that transformation process. All transformations are code. They are managed as a software repository of code, which means it allows you to make changes, edit changes, version changes to look at things in isolation. You can look at your entire data and how it moves through different models and how it actually moves your visualizations. So again, all of these, like we're putting fancy terms and fancy things, but at the end of the day, they provide you structure and process into things which previously were more ad hoc. And that over the long run, when you have a platform that can do that, and you're not in charge of infrastructure, but it runs, you get notifications, you can see when things fail. And that's essentially where the difference between having Dalgo and the previous system is. Did that help, Kabir?
Yeah, that is. Thank you, Sheetal, and thank you, Vinod. So I'll just sort of quickly summarize what I have understood from your sharing, both of your sharing. I think I'm essentially taking two key points from here. The one is the like what I'm listening from you, and also like sort of extrapolating from my own experience that like a lot of trouble happens in the data ingestion phase. When the schema changes, something comes up in the data which is just the system can't is not apt for, and the entire thing fails, and then you go and hunt for what has failed. So what happens is with the notifications bit aspect of it, or let's say let me call it the error or the validation catching mechanism, like one is kept up to date with what has exactly it's able to pinpoint what has exactly failed in the ingestion step. That's one key takeaway for me. And the second key takeaway of the Dalgo ecosystem in terms of the DBT aspect, which is like how you're transforming your data. You can do it using, let's say, pandas, or you can do it using your SQL or scripts. What it's essentially doing, it's like almost like a layer on the top of it, which probably has abstracted certain aspects of it, and like let's say given nice models to work with, right? So which means over the time you're able to version different aspects of it, and like sort of reduce probably. I mean, this is just my so I'm just doing some guesswork that it's probably reduced a lot of like boilerplate code you would end up writing each time. That's what my key two takeaways. So thank you for that, Sheetal and Vinod.
Yeah, and Kabir, feel free to check in back with us, me or Abhishek, if you want more information. Always willing to share more on Dalgo.
Yeah, I think just a last quick question. I wouldn't use a qualifier last year. So one quick question here that I see that you have used Superset for the data visualization, right? And Sheetal, Vinod, like this from all of you, because let's say for SCF, I have primarily used until now, like one part of the program we have been using Zoho ecosystem, and the second part, in another program, we have currently been leveraging this sort of Kobo Python script hosted on AWS in combination, and like let's say using Google Sheet, and then just sort of powering the dashboard using the Google Data Studio. So my question comes from this bit, that how have you found Superset as when you compare it with, let's say, as a visualization tool compared to something like W or Google Data Studio dashboard? And your own experience.
Yeah. So I would like to respond to this. So I would talk about feedback that we've been receiving and received from the end users, which is the program team, and also the stakeholders, which is the M&E team, because it has helped us as well. So overall, we've had positive feedback from the teams, because especially the frontline field workers who didn't have independent access previously. So for them, as I walked you through some of the dashboards, these are actionable ones. So earlier, how at the end of the month, what we used to send in a Tableau. So we used to send like, say, how many women were referred, how many were followed, but this is more like they can course correct during their like month and not wait till the end. So pending deferrals, what is the visit status? So things like immunization dashboard, all of those have seen a very good response from the teams. There are a few like because they're used to viewing data in a certain way, like lists and Tableau, etc. So there has been requests for changes, or which we are trying to incorporate. From the M&E perspective, it has really gotten down our data collation and refreshing turnaround times for our own monitoring, for donor reporting. So the visualization dashboards, I would say, have been very useful, positive.
So Kabir, on my end to add, right? So when we started again with SNEHA, we're on Tableau dashboards. And then like Functionally today, we're probably similar. Visually, I'd probably say a little bit of a backward step. But that's the thing, that the pros and cons with what you're able to match with Superset. To me, I would probably say if you want a really good visual tool, you probably, like, your best bets are Tableau and Power BI. But what that comes with is the high level of cost. And for SNEHA, one of our goals was democratization of data across the entire organization. And so we are looking at how do we give access to dashboards for 600 people in the organization. And we realized that that's not doable for us at a Tableau Cloud or a Power BI, and it's never going to be feasible. And so if you get down from that point and you get to the point where you are looking at more open source tools and easier accessible tools and visualization tools, you kind of get limited. Your biggest ones will be Superset, Metabase, and Google Data Studio. There's pros and cons to each one of them. And for us, the biggest drivers in terms of SNEHA and why we are kind of choosing it for also the Dalgo platform is that Superset came out of Airbnb. Has a pretty good open source community, has a lot of users. The other big thing is that Superset allows for a lot of control on what we were talking about of role-based access control. So in our case at SNEHA, health information is private. And so we want even community organizers to be able to look at the particular, let's say we were looking at pregnant women, we want them to look at only the pregnant women's data for their basti, their areas, and work with that. And that becomes super important for us. And that kind of has eliminated, for example, Metabase, because it doesn't have good access control policies in terms of being able to do things like this. And then relative to Google Data Studio, Looker Studio, the comparison point has been with Looker Studio. The biggest complaint we hear always from people is that it's slow, because you don't control the size of the server for which you're hosting. So similarly for SNEHA, for example, we expect around easily 30 to 40 concurrent users at some point. So even at a later point, if we say we grow from 600 to 1,000 people and we need more usage, it's a very easy thing to scale the server size and even putting multiple servers for Superset. So essentially, we know that with this decision, we can't go wrong in terms of scalability. And we can make things to work better. For example, with Superset, you can cache your results. Superset can pull from cache. We can also use dbt to pre-aggregate results. So things can be faster. But at the end of the day, to control server infrastructure, Superset gives you infinite control, while you're kind of limited if you go to a Looker Studio or anything, unless you pay for it.
Right.
And so that's kind of drivers on more the engineering side of it for us.
Okay, this is wonderful. Thank you so much again, Sheetal and Vinod. This has been very insightful for me, just to know that what were the parameters which went into this decision making of what to pick up. And yeah, congratulations. I hope the way you have made data more actionable, it leads to the strengthening of the program, and also just I think the end user being more happy, the customers or the beneficiaries being more happy. Thank you so much, Sheetal, Vinod, for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody else?
I have a question. In Dalgo, that data management and everything is there. So does the data keep changing monthly basis? How it changes? The figures that you have shown just now, the Sheetal displayed it at the SNEHA dashboard kind of a thing. Does it keep changing or automatically you have to do that separately during analysis or something that, and then you display that?
So Ujjwala, as Vinod was explaining, all these metrics are pre-calculated, and this thing happens 24-hour or like nightly basis. So whatever the way dashboards are set up, the CO dashboards are more live. So if you do data entry and sync, so that is automatically reflected on your dashboards the next day. The program dashboards are more set to be a longer period. So it is the last month data is aggregated and shown on graphs. So just by changing filters for ad hoc metrics can be calculated. We don't have to do any other manual calculations.
So Sheetal, I just have one question, whether the data of each program, like maternal child health, that we have a data around married women in the reproductive age group. So whatever indicators that we have, against the indicator, does it also display on our website automatically, or do we have to put it on our website?
No, currently, yeah, go ahead.
The website isn't connected with this, Dalgo.
Okay.
This is more for our internal use at SNEHA.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
Great. We're here for another 15 minutes. The call's open for another 15 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have any more questions, feel free to stay back. We can chat further. Thank you and have a great day. And please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions at all about either Dalgo or SNEHA and our work with them. Happy to chat further.
Thank you.
I'm curious about a few more things, but because I've already asked 2 questions, so maybe I'll wait for somebody else to ask questions. Otherwise, I'll start with my questions after 5 minutes.
Sure, we can do that, Kabir. Yeah, I think Kabir, I think you should go ahead. I don't think there's that many people still on the call, so go for it.
Right. Okay. So just a little bit of the context as I put my question. The context is more around like I do not know enough. Okay, that's the So what I've understood from this presentation is that it seems that the SNEHA scale is quite like big. Like in terms of field workers, because I saw Sheetal, the presentations you were showing. In the CO1, there were like these 6 different areas of Mumbai, and probably the numbers I saw 900 cases. There was some like a bit of scale over there, right? I'm just curious from experience of all 3 of you. Let's say when you work with a small to medium sized enterprise, let's say with a beneficiary size of, or let's say end user size of 200, 300, 400, and how do you sort of make this choice of which system? I know it's a very broad question, but which system to go along with? So for example, let's say with something like a Zoho ecosystem, I know that the entire hosting bit of it that gets taken care of. And you can spin an instance pretty quick, and everything stands in one place. So from that point of view, it becomes a little drag and drop sort of situation. So just curious to hear, and I have personally seen the Zoho ecosystem and this entire the system of Kobo Python scripts hosted on AWS, and then Google Sheets, and then the Google Data Studio. So I'm just curious to hear from your experience, Vinod, that how does one make this choice of what parameters do you generally keep in mind? I know that probably the team's competency, team skill set, existing skill set, the budget, but what are some of the other parameters you keep in mind?
Abhishek, you want to take that in terms of what we see as the main use cases for Dalgo and where it's a good fit? If you want, you can even flash the presentation or flash that through a walkthrough.
Yeah. Sure, we can do that. So, I think Kabir's question was more around how do you make a choice between Dalgo and other systems? So to that, if you could speak, I can definitely take him through specifically for Dalgo. Uh, uh, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned that because the example that Kabir was giving was one isolated pipeline, which for Dalgo is okay. We can do the same because, like, for example, you could connect Kobo directly and you could funnel it to a database, and then you can push that to Google Data Studio or whatever you would want, right? Where does it shine more would be if you had, like, for example, we have one organization that uses Kobo and wants to mix and merge forms which are different across, like, let's say 3 or 4 different countries. So this one is like an education NGO which has things in a few different countries where the forms are slightly different, and they're all collected on Kobo. Kobo is the platform. And then you wanted to basically mix and merge across all of these and push that through. So a single Google Sheet, the way they used to do it before was to run into Google Sheet, and then there is manual processing of data into one central master data sheet. And then that was getting funneled. Actually, this organization was using Zoho. And so they started working with us for 2 of those reasons. One, to reduce that manual effort in that first part to merge across multiple tables. The other one was on whether they were not happy with Zoho in the visualization, which it didn't fit their particular criteria. Again, so that's a very personal question in terms of organizations and how they do it. Coming to the other side, so this was one use case where Dalgo is a good fit, where you are having data across multiple uh, sources, whether that be from the same source as Kobo or from different sources. We have multiple organizations that use Glyphic, which is a chatbot, or other chatbot tools, or IVR systems like Exotel system. So where data comes in from those systems, you want to merge it with a, let's say if you're in the education sector, you could be having a master student table, and you want to basically merge the way they communicated on WhatsApp with their actual demographic data, and you want to mix and merge that. So again, you have data coming in from multiple different sources that you have to merge. And that's, again, a challenge usually. You need specialized tools to be able to do that and to reduce any kind of manual work. So things can be automated, so things seamlessly go. Again, I'm not super familiar with the Zoho platform and what it would take if you can do uh, all of these things that we are talking about. Whether you would be able to mix and merge across multiple different things and not, I'm not 100% sure. And what it would allow you to do. What also for us is we work on the open source side of it, and we want to be able to leverage open source tools because over time, most of data ingestion tools and data transformation tools get expensive based on the amount of data you're ingesting. And that also is a big concern for organizations that are involved in like WhatsApp chatbots, because the stream of communication, and if you are recording every single stream of communication, you blow through a lot of messages in a month. You can easily have volumes of 500,000 to 1,000,000 messages per month. And that's the amount of data coming in. And so you have to crunch that data, right? And so those are also those challenges. And what will be the cost pattern when it comes to it? Today, the way we do it is all dependent on server cost, grouped cost among different NGOs because it's a shared cost for those servers. One NGO might use it less now, one might use it a little bit more. So we are able to have that scale and use it as a software as a service where we are able to transfer those cost savings, right? And then overall, typically on the ingestion and transformation side, most of the times it's on build on events. So ingestion of 1 million a month will start costing you quite significant amounts of money. And so things like that are where you definitely see clear patterns where Dalgo can help. In the case of SNEHA, we want 2 different things. One is the volume of data that we are ingesting on Comcare. The other thing was we wanted to kind of get away from the way we were doing it before, which was to load only parts of the data. Because one of the other things is that with Dalgo, we load entire data from Comcare. So anything that's recorded during one transmission from one field worker to back to the servers is recorded. And so you can go back in time to parse because the data is already there in your data warehouse. You can do all kinds of analysis without having to do re-ingestion and re-querying and all of that stuff on the source data. So the source data is completely coming in to our Dalgo warehouses. And that's the other advantage. With SNEHA, we had significant amount of data schemas because there's so many different components at SNEHA that we do. There is a maternal health, there's child nutrition, there's child anthropometry, prevention of violence against women and children. There is a non-communicable disease and TB component. So it's very wide and varied. And so you need some form of an organization in your transformation modules. Again, typically you have commercial tools that are able to do this. There are multiple commercial tools that allow you to do these transformations, but quite a bit more expensive than what you are able to achieve with Dalgo. Because Dalgo, if you think about looking at it, it is essentially around $2,500 for the whole year. And it is irrespective of scale. It allows you to basically pull ingestion from so many different sources, transformations. Most of our work, not most, all of our work is open source. For example, the ComCare connectors we built, Kobo connectors, Survey CTO, all of those are open source back. And they are like, if you were to go use Airbyte Cloud, you can actually use those connectors. So that's again, one of the things that we believe in. So different business models, cost would be a consideration, scale of data, different sources of data, if you have to mesh and merge them. And then again, the visualization platform, if that's also something important for you. If, for example, Zoho doesn't work for you, then there's not a big advantage in being in a Zoho ecosystem. And so that would also be some of the things that should kind of guide your decision. Abhishek, feel free to add in if I missed any particular things.
Yeah, I think just the one thing worth mentioning is support, right? Which is again something like Vinod is mentioning, right? Everything we're doing is done through commercial kind of commercial tools. The only difference being price, being our ability to cater to NGO specific needs, because commercial tools don't cater to your to connectors that NGOs may be using, right? And so, but we can build those out for you if that's required, right? Since it's all open source. And the last thing being that when it comes to a commercial tool, getting access to support, live support is tough. But in this space, support is something we've learned through our time at Tech for Dev over the past few years, is that that's kind of crucial when it comes to NGOs adopting tech. And that's something that we kind of provide. So you have us on Discord. You can join us there, and we're kind of happy to get on a call, work on kind of up to 5 hours every month of support actively, and kind of roll that over the year, and even do small projects with you around training or whatever else is required to make sure that you all can really adopt the product. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much, Vinod and Abhishek. This again gives me like a cloud of different thoughts of what probably has gone into this decision making, and gives me a good idea about it.
Not able to hear you well, Kabir. If you're asking a question, it was very staticky for me, at least. I don't know, Abhishek, if you are able to hear, you can respond.
Yeah, no, it's staticky. Kabir was just saying thanks. Yeah.
Is it better audible now?
Much better.
Okay, I shifted from my speaker to laptop's microphone. So I'm saying thank you for sharing, Vinod and Abhishek. I think just with just your thought process that you shared with me, that what went into decision making for SNEHA, and let's say this data mixing, merging, just ability to load the entire data, the support bit, the scale bit, the role-based access bit, the visualizations bit, it gives me an idea of, oh, these are the different parameters which went into decision making around like what sort of tool or ecosystem to use. So just thank you for that. And for now, just because 2 minutes, last quick question for Sheetal. Sheetal, given that the system is transitioning to you now from the Dalgo team, I'm assuming Dalgo team is still there for the support. How are you feeling about it? Given that I see there's a new DBT tool over there where, let's say, probably you have still SQL scripts you're writing or the Python you are writing, and there's a new visualization tool which probably would have some learning curve for its like sort of customization. How are you feeling about it?
Good. So, as somewhere it was mentioned that we do have we have hired a resource at SNEHA to support us with this. And currently, the last few components that we've rolled out completely internally at SNEHA. So we have Abhishek Karmakar on this call, who is our data engineer. But as I shared in our plan for the future, there is also there has to be like some sort of capacity building for the M&E and IM teams at SNEHA to be able to sustain this. So we are planning for that.
Understood.
Because as in the NGOs, if you somebody asked also like ad hoc things change and for
Right.
so something that has been built, it is okay if that is routinized, in corporates that happens. But in here there are changes that are required. You need to be able to bring that in and within quick turnaround time. So that is something that we're planning for capacity building to be able to do ad hoc small metric changes in the dashboard as such. So, yeah.
Okay,
If you
understood.
want to add, Vinod, if you want to add, okay. Nice.
Yeah, Vinod
No,
is
nothing
like,
add, you covered it.
yeah, Vinod is like, I'll leave it to the end user because I'm the product person. I wouldn't speak about it. Thank you for keeping that ethics intact. Okay, wonderful. Once again, thank you for just sharing your time generously and your work and knowledge as well. And I appreciate that. I have learned, I'm learning away a little bit more than I walked in. Thank you, all three of you.
Thanks, Kabir.
Okay, bye. Have a good day ahead.
Bye-bye. Thank you. So we're out of time. I hope no one is leaving with questions unanswered. If you are, please email us. Just visit our website. You can reach out to us from there, or I'm putting my email in the chat box.
I think Naveen has a question on the costing. Maybe you can take that and finish off, Abhishek.
Yeah, I saw that Nagraj put in the costing there. Naveen, are you still here on the call? Yes, you are. Yeah. So Naveen, Abhishek Nagraj has shared the link to costing with you. Essentially, it's 2 lakhs a year. You can get billed however you want, right? Monthly, quarterly, half yearly, or yearly. And that's just the Dalgo platform. If you also want to use Superset, it's 2,52,000 annually. And you can split that up again per month, quarter, 6 months, or year.
Right.
That's the costing. Yeah.
So you have mentioned it's a base cost. So do we have any additional cost?
Yeah. So base is 2,04,000. And
So in this, it will be onboarding on the platform with the integration with our existing one. If like I just want to understand, let's say we
right.
are having multiple data sources,
Mhm.
like we are collecting data from multiple device applications. So will it increase or how this will change? That I just
Right. So short answer is nothing will change. It doesn't matter how many data sources you're pulling data from. But let me just clear one misconception. You can see my screen, right?
right.
So this is the, one sec. Give me a second now. Yeah, so this is how it looks, right? So there's onboarding, which is consulting, right? And that could take anywhere between 1 month to 3 months based on what the scale of work is that you require to have done, right? Where we look at what you need to do, if we need to build connectors, if we need to set up certain transformations, if you want us to work on your visualizations as well, and then the handover, right? So that's consulting. Then what I've mentioned, the 2,04,000, that is the SaaS cost, right?
Right.
And so that's the difference. So you'll break the cost up into 2 pieces. There's onboarding, which is a separate cost, and there's SaaS, which is separate. So SaaS being 2,04,000, right? If you're just using Dalgo, if you're using Dalgo with Superset, it's 2,52,000. And the consulting, the onboarding consulting is charged at 2,500 an hour, depending on how many
Okay.
hours that work is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it. And in this, let's say if any application that we are using for data collection, they do not have any API and are not willing to build the API for the integration, then how it will be handled?
Yeah. So that I will let Vinod take. Go ahead. Yeah.
So that will be dependent. If you don't have an API, there's really no easy way to pull data, right? If you have access to the backend database where the data is stored, theoretically possible to just reflect and mirror it into the data warehouse. That's one possibility. But if you don't have that, then realistically, that data is going to have to be synced from either an Excel or a Google Sheet that data is exported on. You really don't have too many options if you don't have a good API to pull data programmatically from.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, Abhishek and Sheetal also. Thank you, everyone, for joining the session.
Thanks. You're on mute, Abhishek.
All right. Yeah, I think we can close then. Thank you very, very much, everyone who joined and who has stayed on until now. Thank you, Sheetal, and all of the SNEHA team that's here on the call as well, for making this possible. Yeah.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thanks,
Thank
Naveen.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.